What if the next Zelda game going to be a reboot of Link to the Past? So I'm trying something different with this video here. I'm still working on my Link's Awakening video, but I just had this idea that I just kind of want to talk about and just want to, try a different kind of a discussion right here. So this is a potential series that I'm thinking of doing where we just talk about, different theories or whatnot. But I want to start with this with a lot of the talk that's been happening recently about, speculation with what the new Zelda game would be. So there's been, plenty of talk about how Breath of the Wild is being kind of, maybe it's a little extreme to say a soft reboot of A Legend of Zelda, but there are certain similarities with it, especially the fact that how open world Breath of the Wild is. We really haven't had that since the first Zelda game. Some people compare it a little bit to Wind Waker, but to me personally, to the level of how open world it is, where you could literally go to the final encounter with Ganon nearly at the start of the game and not have to do like any other dungeons or anything beforehand, that's really a big thing that those two games have in common. But I've also seen talk about similarities between Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, and Tears of the Kingdom. Mostly with similarities with story elements and the time gap that precedes the preceding games, that being Legend of Zelda to Zelda 2 and Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. So it seemed kind of interesting to me to see some of those similarities that are made there. And there are different videos that go into further detail about that. It made me start to think, what if they did basically like a reboot or soft reboot of Link to the Past or Link Between Worlds with the next game? So recently, there's been an interview that's been talked about quite a bit where the director and producer of the recent Zelda games have talked about how they're not going to be having any DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, and that they might even be done with just making another game in this Hyrule altogether. They feel that they've done everything with that. So it got me starting to think, well, what if they made something where it was a different land, but it was the same kind of mechanics? And then I was thinking, how cool would that be if it was like the Dark World from Link to the Past, or like Lorule from A Link Between Worlds? Kind of like how Link Between Worlds is kind of like seen as being this weird place of like being kind of a mix of like a reboot, but also kind of like a sequel to Link to the Past. So would they kind of just continue that storyline right there, where the next Zelda game would just be a continuation of that? Like, I think that would be really cool. One of the things I remember from Lorule is how there was like a lot of craters that separated the land and everything, so it's like you can have the main land map of Lorule, but you can also have almost kind of like the depths there as well, just like as in Tears of the Kingdom. So I think that would be really cool, and it'd be a really interesting idea to see like if they'll implement a lot more dungeons in there, like how you have in Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds. So for a lot of the people that are, more fans of the traditional formula of Zelda, maybe it's a step that can make them happier with this too, where it's kind of like a combination of the, things that we see with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with the open exploration and everything, but say that there's more like actual dungeons there, or even like take a thing from Link Between Worlds, like the whole like item renting thing, and there's more and unique items in the next game. Maybe some of them resemble more of what was seen before. And I think there's been plenty of people who've been wanting to see what it would be like to have something like the hookshot in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I know, at least for me, I would have liked to have seen that. But at the same time, I'm not complaining at all. I love those games. Tears of the Kingdom for me is up there with some of my favorite games, not just in the Zelda series, but in general. But speaking of that, ironically enough, with this whole discussion of them possibly doing something different outside of Hyrule, well, my two favorite Zelda games both exist in other places outside of Hyrule, with Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening. So either way for me, I'm very excited to see what can happen there. But I think it'd be really, really cool if they did do something where we got back to the Dark World or Lorule, and it doesn't have to be like how those games were, where you would go back and forth between those places and Hyrule. They could have it where maybe it has an intro kind of similar to Tears of the Kingdom, where you start off in Hyrule, and then Link basically gets you know, teleported or whatnot to the Dark World or Lorule, and the whole point of the game is, in the story, he's trying to find out how to get back to Hyrule. Maybe there's some kind of element there that, like, there's something that showed up on Hyrule from one of those lands, and Link wants to, you know, get back to basically save Hyrule. I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here. You can't tell, compared to the recent videos I've done, this one isn't really as scripted. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. For me, I just want to start a general discussion here, because I find this very interesting on where things can go from here, and hearing everyone's different ideas from it. So with that said, what's your thoughts on this? You know, what do you think, you know, they should do, or what would you like to see them do with the next Zelda game? And also, what are your thoughts on this video format? Really like to know, like, you know, do you think I should make more videos like this? This kind of video could talk about anything. So definitely, you know, comment your thoughts there. But thank you for watching and joining me in this discussion. I'm ParUhDroyd, and I'll see you on the tube side.